Okay, today I'm going to show you one of the ways to remove the knob from a Merkur Progress. And I will be using a method that was taught to me actually by one of my clients about how he has gotten, he's got two of my replacement knobs and he's replaced them, and apparently he thought about it a little more than I did. So the two that I have replaced, I basically just whittled this knob off, which does work, takes a little bit of time, but his method I thought sounded a little bit better. So the tools that you're going to need, you're going to want a razor knife of some sort. The heavier duty ones, something with a little more grip, are going to be better, easier to use, but I have used these little ones before, just with the little sliders. These are nice to have around to do the finishing work, because that blade is about half as thick as this bigger one. But this gives you a lot of force that you can put when you use one of these big carpet knives. You're also going to need some needle nose pliers, and that'll help you pull things off. So first thing to talk about is just how to get the shaft out, and that is relatively easy. So you're going to loosen it so that the top cap comes off, set that to the side, and then you just pull and that knob comes out. Now if you look in here, let me get something so I can point. There we go. This will work a little better. So there is this little ring here, and this is just a compression ring, and that's what actually holds it into the shaft on the razor itself. So that compresses as it goes in, and then once it's inside, it basically just holds firm, you know, because it's squeezing on the outside, and then it makes it hard to pull out. But if you give it enough force, of course, that ring will compress and allow you to pull that out. The next thing is the number ring, and the number ring is actually this plastic of the knob is actually up and under that number ring. So because of that, I also, whenever I send out a knob, I send out a spacer just in case you knock that off. It is possible to take the knob off and leave that number ring in place, which is preferred, I think, unless your numbering has already been knocked askew and is, you know, needs to be adjusted anyway. Then it doesn't matter so much. But okay, so the method that we're going to do, we want to end up with a series of cuts. One cut is we want to cut around the base of that numbering, and we want to cut all the way down to the shaft. So basically we want to remove, make a channel in between that number ring and the rest of the knob. All right, and so that will allow us to leave that number ring in place without disturbing it, and then work on the rest of the knob. So once we get that done, then what we want to do is make an X pattern into the bottom of this, and we want those cuts to go once again all the way to the middle and all the way up to meet our top cut. So that'll basically give us 4 wedges, and you could do it with 8 as well, and it would make some of the, you know, prying the stuff off a little bit easier, but then you spend more time cutting. So one important thing is just take your time. You're dealing with razor blades, and it does take a fair bit of force to do this. One thing that you can do is heat up your razor blade, but this plastic, if you get it too hot, will smoke, plastic smoke, and it's very nasty, and your wife, girlfriend's mother will be very pissed at you if you do it inside. So I'm not going to heat mine up, but one way to do that is to get a candle, like a little tea light, and hold the blade next to the candle so it's not directly in the flame, and that way it'll get hot, but not so hot once you get the hang of it that it causes it to smoke. All right. So you also notice I'm using a self-healing cutting mat, and that just makes things a little bit easier. I've got my glasses on. And so I'm just going to work my blade back and forth, applying a good amount of pressure. And I'm going to turn it over to one facet at a time, I should say, of this. And I'm just going to rinse and repeat and go around probably a couple times until I get that groove all the way down. So I'll speed up the video now, and because this process does take a little bit of time. I switched to this blade because the blade is thinner and it allows it to penetrate a little bit easier. One thing you definitely don't want to do while doing this, you don't want to wiggle the blade back and forth like this. That will cause a lever action onto your number ring and force it up and off. Rock forward and back, not side to side. It's fairly easy to cut. It takes a little bit of oomph and elbow grease, but fairly easy to cut. Just rock it. Rock the blade back and forth like I just did. And you'll get there. Take your time. This is where it gets a little more dangerous because you're balancing this. So you want to be careful. Make sure your grooves are started very well. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to get like a 2x4 and just drill a hole in it so that that'll sit down in. And then you can work on this without worrying about it tipping. So now I have a line pretty much cut all the way down to the metal, going from the number ring all the way down through the bottom and up to the numbering. I think I have a little more to clear here, but I'll wait and do that in the final. So now I'm going to do one that just cross cuts that. So I'll end up with 4 wedges. See if you guys can see that. So basically I've got the blade pushed through with the spine of the blade up against the base of the metal. And so now I'm going to try to work this a little bit to get these wedges to maybe loosen up a bit. Really what I need is enough to get some needle nose pliers in there to get a hold of it. Doing that, working it, and it opens up a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. There we go. You can see I just got it to split. And now I should be able to pull that off. So that's what it looks like on the inside. You can see this knob, no other way to get it off other than to cut it off. Either whittle it or you can work it off like that, because it is basically hot dipped into this knob plastic at the factory, and then the number ring is put over the top of that, so you can see up in here there's plastic that's actually holding that number ring on as well. Just going to make sure that this is cut good before I pull the rest of that off. I don't want to knock that number ring off if I can help it. There we go. Now all I need to do is take one of the good sharp razors, a good sharp blade, and just clean up that edge, just to make sure I've got a nice smooth bottom there. So it takes a little time, but I managed to get it off actually in just 2 pieces. So pretty happy with that, but you can see how thick that bottom is. One of the other important things that we have discovered, or I have discovered over the last, I guess, 6 months that I've been printing these progress knobs, is that this distance from the number ring to the base is different in every single one, and I've seen as much as a 6mm difference. This one looks to be pretty short. This one's probably 7 or 8mm. I've seen them up at 12. So that is why, if you can, I prefer that you pull the knob off first, measure that distance. That way I can then print to your specific progress.